morning, everyone. It's good to see you on our last day here, and I hope you've had a great conference. As mentioned, I'm Susan McPherson, and I'm based in New York, and I'm thrilled to introduce you today to Dr. Mziwa Mandela, who runs the House of Mandela Family Foundation, which is where she continues the work of her late father, Nelson Mandela. We have Nishita Henry, who is the Chief Innovation Officer for Deloitte, a sponsor here today. And then we have Vikram, who is the Vice President of Policy and Strategic Affairs at Postmates. And last but not least, we have Vien Trong, who is a founder of her own consultancy, which we'll tell you more about when she comes on. So without further ado, we'll bring them on stage. Thank you. And I thank Will for that introduction, because what we're going to be talking about is very much on the national stage and actually global stage today. And interestingly, diversity and inclusion used to be specifically an HR function. It probably wasn't even talked about that much on the societal level. And it was always one that was a defensive position. How can we ensure our teams are meeting diversity standards? How can we be sure we have the right policies in place and procedures so that no one gets offended or feels excluded? But no more. D&I is now a core business strategy, not just internally for the company's culture, but in a way, the way companies approach challenges, create products, and think through the implications of their work. Internally, we've seen companies shift language around belonging. This isn't just about checking boxes or setting goals, but about creating environments where employees can be their true selves and authentically thrive. And it's not just about recruiting a certain number of candidates from a certain background, but about creating cultures where employees from all different backgrounds can succeed. And for the strongest companies, the responsibility isn't just with one person, with the chief strategy or the chief diversity officer. It is now spread throughout the organization. And most importantly for this conference and the people in the audience, we've seen companies grapple with the effects of technologies, and therefore the markets they're creating. So how can we accelerate our business and technological change without leaving people behind? And if we extrapolate this larger and look at society as a whole, these are issues affecting us everywhere. So I want to turn it to our panel, but I first want them to just talk maybe 1 or 2 minutes about the work that they do, because each of them are doing extraordinary things in the world and places where they spend most of their time. Hopefully not too often on planes. So I will start with my left to Dr. Mziwa.
I am Mziwa Mandela from Johannesburg, South Africa. I founded House of Mandela, which is basically a company that is in manufacturing. And we manufacture, we really turn the precious minerals out of the African womb, which is gold, diamonds into precious metals. Because we believe firmly that we have to change the paradigm, that Africa is the producer and the consumer of goods that are actually made as finished products overseas in Western countries. But we also founded the House of Mandela Family Foundation, which its major focus is on agriculture and food security. And we're building a teaching farm in rural parts of South Africa, because we believe it is through agriculture that we can turn the situation in Africa and move a lot of people out of poverty.
Excellent. Thank you. Nishita?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nishita Henry. I serve as our Chief Innovation Officer for Deloitte Consulting. And what that means is that I am responsible for cultivating our external ecosystem, which includes startups, technology companies, and innovative talent, and connecting them with our network to create new solutions that match our strategic priorities and enable our clients to meet their strategic priorities in the market. And so I'm very keen on kind of making sure we understand the net new technologies being developed, how are they going to impact us as a society and as an organization, and how do we use those to impact the things and the missions that are important to our clients.
Thank you. Vikram.
Yeah, hey everybody, thank you for having us. My name is Vikram Iyer. I'm our vice president at a company called Postmates. Not sure if everyone's familiar with it, but it's an app-based technology that allows you to get goods on demand in your community. A lot of people use it for food-based delivery and other goods delivery. The reason that I'm interested in this conversation is that I oversee all of our regulatory and legislative conversations, and one might think, why does a burrito delivery app require that? But really, the answer is simple. I think this conference addressed in numerous fora what the future of work looks like.
Yeah.
But when you think about this vast tonnage of workers that might be Uber drivers or Postmates drivers or other forms of drivers, the power of the internet and an idea really allows all of us to work by ourselves or really have a low barrier of entry to work. So I've been working with a few governors in this country about how can we restructure a new safety net for those low-wage workers that don't necessarily plug into a full suite of benefits in the way that America's safety net has been built since World War II. I think thinking about radical inclusion, about applying how you build up and lift up more and more workers, even if you're a tech company, is really paramount and key to our conversation today.
Hear, hear. And Vienne.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Oh, still waking up. Hi. I got here really far away today, across the bridge from Oakland, California. And yes, thank you. I grew up there. And growing up in Oakland has really helped me understand the world. It's one of the most diverse places in this country. It's also one of the places where we're dealing with a whole lot of problems. I grew up in a community, 94601, Fruitvale, California, which was infamous because that's where Oscar Grant was murdered. And Oscar-winning movies were made about it. But because I grew up there, it has really informed my understanding of the world. We have problems like poverty and pollution that are so systemic and endemic to the problems that we are seeing and feeling daily. And so my work is around how do we actually create solutions to poverty and pollution. I know it's audacious and crazy, but thus far in the last 10 years, I helped to lead a coalition that has led to the largest fund in history to invest in low-income communities to green up. Not from taxpayers, but to take from how do we tax the biggest bad actors, big polluters, and invest in low-income communities. So it's created $9 billion with a B so far since 2012 when it got passed. I also helped to lead the coalition around electric vehicles. How do we incentivize and subsidize electric vehicles and get California to 1 million EVs within 9 years? We're well on our way now. It got passed in 2015. I continue to do this work. I pass policies globally, federally, statewide, and locally. So I've been helping to work with the Obama administration, I just came back from Guam and Cuba. We also are working to figure out how do we actually support companies in doing that across the country. Currently, I'm helping Tom Steyer write his climate justice policy, and if you guys haven't seen it, you guys should take a look, because the work now is about how do we begin to bridge the work that you guys are doing in technology to what's happening in the public sector. How do we make sure that we're bridging the conversation that's happening here to what's happening in my community in Oakland? So it's the work I do.
Well, as you can see, it's a wildly diverse panel, so we were very inclusive today. So my first question, I'd like to start with Dr. Mandela, and that is, in your mind, what does a radically inclusive future look like? And you can, big sky, and how can technology help us get there?
I think first for me, a radically inclusive society has to truly include everybody in society at different levels and different sectors of society. If you are really going to create a better world for all, it cannot just be a meeting of minds here in this room. It has to include people who do not look like us. And radical change means we have to have a deep courage to actually change and to embrace people who do not look like us. Because as I travel from the airport with my daughter into this hotel,